So we bring you live to the floor of the House of Representatives, where there is the vote for Speaker of the House. And I wanted to bring in this coverage right now to kind of save you some of the time from listening to everybody else vote. But based on what we're seeing right now in the first round, MAGA Mike Johnson simply does not have the votes to become the Speaker of the House. Let me repeat that. MAGA Mike Johnson in this first round of voting will not become the Speaker of the House. How do we know that? Take a look at the bottom right there of the votes that have been cast for the Democratic minority leader, Hakeem Jeffries, as Speaker, and for MAGA Mike Johnson right there. Now, I expect the number for MAGA Mike Johnson to rise and be higher than Hakeem Jeffries. But if you look over there on the right where it says other, 3 votes for others right there. You see that right there? The only thing that MAGA Mike Johnson had to have to avoid not being knocked off as Speaker in the first round, he couldn't have more than 1 defection. Because Thomas Massie, a MAGA Republican, was basically already not going to be voting for MAGA Mike Johnson. So that was 1 vote for another. So Thomas Massie, instead of voting MAGA Republican for MAGA Mike Johnson, voted for a MAGA Republican by the name of Tom Emmer. So after that happened, then a MAGA Republican Representative Ralph Norman cast his vote for Jim Jordan instead of MAGA Mike Johnson. So by making that vote for Jim Jordan instead of MAGA Mike Johnson, right there when there was 2 votes for others, we knew that MAGA Mike Johnson was not going to become the Speaker on this first round of votes. Then a third GOP lawmaker, Keith Self, voted for someone other than MAGA Mike Johnson. He cast his vote for Byron Donalds. And so that gave us right there the 3 others. Now, there are still a number of holdouts, no responses from a group of 6 MAGA Republicans right now who have not voted, whose names have been called: Biggs, Clyde, Cloud, Gosar, Harris, and Roy. There are many who are suggesting that Andy Harris, who leads the Freedom Caucus, is who the MAGA Republicans actually want to replace MAGA Mike Johnson as Speaker of the House. Now, if those holdouts don't vote, or they somehow screw up their votes, there is a smallest of small chances that Hakeem Jeffries becomes the Speaker of the House if the MAGA Republicans don't know how to count and if these individuals just don't vote at all. But folks, we're going to be in for a long day of chaos on the floor of the House of Representatives, as it is clear that MAGA Mike Johnson does not have the votes to be elected as Speaker of the House. There will be a second round of votes that are expected. And again, there are 6 holdouts right now. That's why you see Hakeem Jeffries in the lead. If those 6 holdouts vote for MAGA Mike Johnson, it'll end up 216 to 214. Not enough, though, with the others being present. He would have to have those extra 2 votes in order to be able to win. The other votes have intentionally screwed MAGA Mike Johnson by going from 1 other vote to 3 other votes right there. So why don't we bring you to the floor? I just wanted to make sense of all of this so you understand the math right now. There are still those 6 MAGA holdouts right there. If they don't vote, Hakeem Jeffries becomes the Speaker of the House. I don't expect that to happen at all, but that is what would happen if they don't end up voting. Let's go to the floor. Let's hear some of these speeches right now, Salty.
Have some respect. It's not going to take...
Gentlelady is recognized.
I asked why they were not called from the parliamentarian, please.
Delegates-elect and the resident commissioner-elect are not qualified to vote. Representatives-elect are the only individuals qualified to vote in the election of a speaker. As provided in Section 36 of the House Rules and Manual, the Speaker is elected by a majority of the members-elect voting by surname.
This body and this nation has a territories and a colonies problem. What was supposed to be temporary has now effectively become permanent. We must do something about this problem so that these 4 million. But I have a voice. And
the reading clerk will now call the names of the representatives-elect who did not answer the first call of the roll.
Biggs of Arizona. Johnson. Carson. Jeffries. Cloud. Johnson. Clyde. Clyde. Gosar. Gosar. Harris of Maryland. Johnson. Roy. Johnson. Waltz. Johnson.
If there are any representatives-elect who did not answer the call of the roll, they may come to the well and vote at this time.
Just stand right there.
Just say Clyde.
Just say Clyde.
Just
Clyde. Clyde. Gosar. Johnson. Clyde. Johnson.
Look, folks, we see right there MAGA Mike Johnson huddling with a bunch of other MAGA Republican Congress members right there. MAGA Mike does not look too pleased. I mean, you know, at least Kevin McCarthy, when he was going through this humiliation ritual, pretended that he was confident. MAGA Mike Johnson, frankly, looks like he's going to cry, folks. I mean, he literally looks like he's on the verge of tears. I mean, it should be noted that before becoming Speaker of the House, MAGA Mike Johnson never held a leadership position before in the House of Representatives. Never led any pieces of legislation, never led any committees, never had any role of substance on any committees. He was basically picked to be the Speaker of the House back when Kevin McCarthy was kicked out because nobody knew who he was. And so the MAGA Republicans picked somebody who they just thought they could, each faction thought that they could convince him to do their bidding. And because nobody really disliked him at that time, they made him speaker. So what you're watching right now is you see 216 to 215, even though MAGA Mike Johnson is up in the total votes because of the fact that 3 MAGA Republicans voted for others. That means that MAGA Mike Johnson will not have the necessary votes to be elected speaker. There will be a second vote that will be coming up shortly. We'll be covering this here throughout the day on the MeidasTouch network, but humiliation for MAGA Mike Johnson right now. You see it in his face. Republicans can't even pick their own speaker right now. And frankly, it looks like MAGA Mike is about to cry. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, he's getting very emotional. Very emotional man, MAGA Mike Johnson is. And just not sure if he's up for the task, to be honest. Very emotional man is what I'm seeing. We will keep you posted with more updates. Let's go back to the floor.
Have the 218 that he needed to get elected this round of speaker voting.
Joining us from Capitol Hill is Michael Schnell of the Hill publication. Ms. Schnell, what's going on up there?
Yeah, it's we're still all digesting the vote tally here, but as the clerk officiates the votes and goes through the roll to make sure they have it right, it appears that Mike Johnson has fallen short of winning the speaker's gavel on this first ballot. As was mentioned, 3 lawmakers voted for somebody other than Johnson on the floor, 3 Republicans. Ralph Norman voted for Jim Jordan, Keith Self for Byron Donalds, and Thomas Massey for Tom Emmer. And because of that outcome, that leaves Johnson with just support from just 216 Republicans. All 215 Democrats supported Hakeem Jeffries. And that 216 number is problematic for Mike Johnson because it's short of the 218 that he needed to clinch the gavel. So this is not official yet. The clerk is going through it, but according to my tally, it looks like Johnson is going to fall short of the gavel on this first ballot.
And that's the same tally we have here on the set. Matthew Green, Catholic University politics professor, is with us as well. Could Ralph Norman change his vote from Jim Jordan? And could Congressman-elect Self change his vote from Donald?
I mean, theoretically, they can all change their vote. The 3 of them can change their vote if they want to. It's possible that the lawmakers who voted for Johnson could change their vote on the second ballot. Anything is possible here, but it's definitely going to require a whole host of conversations, perhaps some negotiations to get Johnson the amount of support that he needs to clinch the gavel.
When do you expect that, if it takes place, a second round of voting?
Yeah, it's all of a very tenuous situation right now, moving target, moving playing field. The first order of business will be the clerk officiating the results, and then we'll go from there to see if Mike Johnson decides to huddle with his conference, huddle with those lawmakers, or get back into another round of voting.
Michael Schnell, have you been able to be on the floor at all?
I was just in the House chamber, just ran down. I was up there for the vote, yes.
Have you had a chance to talk to some of the dissenting Republicans?
Not yet. Folks have not left the floor yet. Everyone is waiting to see the final tally and then see what Johnson decides to go from there.
Michael Schnell of the Hill, thank you for a few minutes and the update. We will be back in touch with you this afternoon. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Well, Matt Green of Catholic University, could those 2 members, we don't expect Tom Massey to change his vote, but could Ralph Norman and Congressman-elect Self change their votes and to Mike Johnson?
Well, that's why it's great that C-SPAN's got these cameras so we can watch Speaker Johnson and his allies trying to have these huddles that you just heard about, these negotiations. And we can see him now sort of walking up the aisle here of the House chamber. I'm sure he's having these conversations. His allies are, whether they can be moved now or not. It may very well be that they're not going to change their votes for this round, but perhaps they would for a second round. But again, as you heard, the question is whether they would do that right away or if they want to hold out their votes for something they can get in exchange for those votes from the speaker.
So he just left the floor. Speaker Johnson just left the floor. By the way, Who is
Everybody,
controlling
let's come back to me if we can.
proceedings
You're all
today? Because
watching
there
what's
is no
going on right
speaker
now
elect.
on the House
Right.
floor.
So it's the
Dan,
clerk.
there is no
I don't
Congress
know
right now.
right there if MAGA Mike Johnson was going back to his speaker's room to cry. Again, very emotional men who are in the Republican Party. Very, very emotional men. Too emotional, I would say, for those positions. And you know, I mean, serious. I mean, you know, I'm saying that as a way to push back against the MAGA Republican men's misogynism, but I'm not really kidding. I mean, MAGA Mike Johnson looked like he was in tears. I mean, he looked like he was going to cry. I think he's way too sensitive for that job. I mean, just watching him almost cry there. And here's the thing too, you have to know going into the day. I mean, how do you not prepare for that? And my question is, if you as a party can't pick a leader of your party, how are you going to pass any single piece of legislation? I mean, I just want you to think about it. It's worth repeating as well. Donald Trump posted that all of these MAGA Republicans need to make sure that MAGA Mike Johnson gets picked. Trump threw his support behind MAGA Mike Johnson. Now, it's temporary. Trump just wants it so he can get certified on January 6th and that the inauguration goes forward without any disruptions. I mean, that's what Trump's plan is, a selfish one. He's going to get ready to throw MAGA Mike under the bus after the 20th. I pretty much can guarantee you that. But Trump told people, vote for MAGA Mike Johnson. Trump also said, eliminate the debt ceiling. Donald Trump also said, or extend the debt ceiling to the next presidential term, right? The party of fiscal responsibility, eliminate the debt ceiling after refusing to allow President Biden to even lift the debt ceiling to pay old debts. And they want to eliminate the debt ceiling. Everything they do is so hypocritical. Well, if you're just tuning in, let me give you the deal. The deal is that MAGA Mike Johnson, by all accounts, does not seem like he's going to win the speakership on vote one. MAGA Mike looked like he was in tears on the floor of the House of Representatives. MAGA Mike Johnson got very emotional, and he walked out of the House floor to probably go to his speaker chambers to start making phone calls. I will probably guess the first phone call is going to be to his daddy Trump, and I'm sure he's going to say, "Yeah, Daddy, they pick me, Daddy. What did they do, Daddy? What should I do?" And then Donald Trump's going to say, all right, MAGA Mike, I'm going to go tweet something. I'm going to go post something on social media. There he is. MAGA. I mean, look, folks, that's an emotional man right there. That is a man. Look at these Republicans. These men are way too emotional for any type of leadership position. And they're crybabies. Daddy Trump, Daddy. They didn't pick me. They didn't pick me on the first round. When I went to UFC with you and gave you the thumbs up, Daddy, you told me they were going to vote for me, Daddy. Is it Mama Trump and Daddy Elon? Some people are saying. I mean, folks, this is who the MAGA Republican Party is. There's a reason that 75% of Americans despise this institution. Because of gerrymandering, you get people like MAGA Mike Johnson. Just pull up him crying again. Just good to see the photo of this guy crying. He's crying. The dude is crying. MAGA Mike, how humiliating for the MAGA Republican Party that they've got, that their speaker is a crybaby. He's like literally tears, spineless. Now, mommy Trump, Daddy Elon, can you please help me, please? It was a bad day for me. Oh my God, this is just so utterly pathetic. Well, you're watching our continuing coverage here at the MeidasTouch Network. You're not going to get impressions like that on corporate media. Let me be very, very clear with you about that. Doesn't seem like MAGA Mike Johnson has the votes to win in the first round after claiming that he did. MAGA Mike, this is going to go to a second round. Is that going to happen today? Is it going to get kicked over the weekend? Remember what Monday is. January 6th. Comes quick. January 6th. Right around the corner. So if this doesn't get done today, they need someone to gavel in Trump. They need to count the electoral votes on January 6th. So could you just think about this? After Donald Trump and MAGA tried with an insurrection to delay the certification of the electoral votes in 2020, with QAnon shamans and the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers, could you imagine if these idiots delay their own certification? Could you imagine if that's what happens? So there you have it, folks, right there. There's the tally. There's the tally. MAGA Mike does not have the votes, folks. Look, we'll keep you posted. Let's go back to the House floor. We'll watch the machinations taking place here. But this thing's going to go to a second vote. The question is when is that second vote going to take place? By the way, that's Thomas Massie, who you're watching there. He's one of the MAGA Republicans leading the charge against MAGA Mike Johnson, saying don't vote MAGA Mike Johnson. One more time, let's show MAGA Mike Johnson's tears. Oh, MAGA Mike, MAGA Mike, MAGA Mike, MAGA Mike. MAGA Mike went back to his office to cry more. So we will keep you posted as we learn more. Let's go back to the House floor for a moment. We could watch the MAGA Republicans huddling up, disorganized.
We are back live at the House of Representatives, first day of the 119th, the election of the Speaker. Round one voting is nearly complete, or we're waiting for it to be gavelled out. Tom Massie, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Professor Matthew Greene is here on the set with us. Professor Greene, what do you see in that picture?
That's a great shot of two members of the House Republican Conference who have a tradition of causing trouble and pushing back against party leaders from time to time. In this case, one of them did vote for Mike Johnson for Speaker, but the other did not.
And is Tom Massie, is there any lobbying that can be done, in your view, to Tom Massie to get him?
You know, this is something that's going on the floor, and I can't speak for Massie, but I will say he has a tradition of being a sort of a lone gun, if you will, and doing his own thing. And he has said early and often he would not vote for Johnson, which certainly suggests that he is not open to persuasion. But, you know, who knows?
The fact that this is happening after the last Speaker election, Kevin McCarthy, 15 rounds or so before he got elected.
I can't think of a time in the history of the House of Representatives where we've had 2 consecutive Congresses where on the opening day or the first opportunity to vote for Speaker, no one wins the first ballot. I can't think of, it may be the first time in the history of the House that this has happened. And I think that speaks to the nature of congressional politics these days, that we have strong partisanship, right, which we always have for the Speaker races, but certainly people are not going to defect very often on big votes. But you also have division. You have division, especially within the Republican Party. And in fact, really since 2011, with one exception, we have had every vote for Speaker has had at least one defector from one or both of the parties. The only exception to that was the election for Johnson in the fall of 2023. So in some ways, we're returning to form, but the fact that they couldn't even reach a majority, the majority party's candidate couldn't reach a majority on the first ballot on the first day of the opening house, and for 2 consecutive Congresses is really remarkable.
If you were a Democrat on the floor right now, how would you be feeling?
Well, Democrats would obviously prefer to be in the majority than the minority, but given that, I think they are thinking this is, again, just as Congressman Aguilar said, a sign that there's going to be a lot of opportunities for them to have influence because the majority party is going to have trouble governing.
Let's return to the House floor. And you're watching live coverage of the opening day of the 119th Congress live on C-SPAN. And for the second Congress in a row, no speaker has been elected, at least on the first round. We're joined all afternoon by Matthew Green, who is a professor of politics at Catholic University, the author of the book, The Speaker of the House. Professor Green, 3 members did not vote for Speaker Johnson. He has 216 votes. There are 219 Republicans in the House. We talked about Tom Massey voting for Tom Emmer, Ralph Norman, Jim Jordan, Keith Self, Byron Donalds. This vote has not been called yet. Could they change their mind?
Right. Well, I mean, I suppose that could be part of the conversation that's happening in the cloakroom or somewhere in the Capitol, that maybe get them to change their votes. But it seems more likely to me that they would just have a second round of voting, and in some ways, it's not really much of a difference either way, right? Either they call this and say you didn't get chosen on the first ballot, but if they can persuade them to vote differently on the second ballot, he'll still be speaker, and within eventually people may even forget about this. But right at this moment, though, there's certainly a lot of pressure, I am sure, on those 3 members to change their votes, because without a speaker, it's very difficult for the majority party to do much of anything.
And this first vote, has not been called yet, correct?
As far as I can see, that's right. It has not been called.
What
yet.
does that mean? What's the significance?
It's hard to say. I don't really know what's happening at this point. Could just be that they're triple checking their numbers. It could be that there is some expectation that someone will change their vote. These 2 of these 3 will change their vote. I don't know, to be honest.
Well, it was 2 years ago that we went 15 rounds
Mm-hmm.
and a couple of days. Now, January 6th is the counting of the accreditation of the electoral votes in Congress. Is there any chance that that could push if there's no speaker elected?
Well, they have to do that. They have to do the count on that day. They're required to do so. That's
January 6th is the day
Mm-hmm.
that
They're
it has to
required
happen.
constitutionally to do it then. So on the one hand, that puts that really endangers. That puts a lot of pressure on the speaker elect, hopefully for Johnson to be speaker, because without him as speaker, it gets very difficult to do that. But it's not clear that we would not have a president if Johnson fails to become speaker by then. I honestly think that he will find the votes before then. But even if he doesn't, there are other ways possibly to go through the process of counting the electoral the electoral vote, the electoral ballots.
All right.
Ballots.
Tully McManus of Politico tweets out, reminder, if Republicans need to regroup before starting a new ballot, there is just one option on the table: adjourn the House. Without House rules in place, the chamber cannot recess, subject to the call of the chair. They'd need to adjourn with a certain day and time for reconvening. Do you agree with that procedure?
So let me get this straight. This is saying that
you can see it right over here on the screen. If Republicans need to regroup before starting a new ballot, there is just one option on the table: adjourn the House.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Well, I want to go back to
there are
what
no
happened
rules in place.
Right. I don't want to go back to what happened in 2023, which was the exact same situation, is that there were no rules in the House because the speaker had not yet been chosen. But regardless of whether you adjourn or go into recess, the point is there would be a break. You can take a break. It's a practical matter. That might be what the Republicans need, is just a break so they can start negotiating and try to get some of those Republicans to vote for Johnson.
All right. That's an update from the House floor. Want to remind you that if this drama is not enough for you and you want to watch the Senate being sworn in, that's procedure is going on C-SPAN 2 in the Senate. There are 12 new senators who will be in the Senate, and a new Majority Leader, John Thune. But we're sticking with the House here on C-SPAN. We'll be back shortly. Live coverage of the opening of the 119th Congress. You saw Representative Johnson there, the speaker nominee for the Republicans, talking with two members who voted for other people. Ralph Norman, South Carolina, Keith Self, Texas. They both voted for other members. They're gathered there in the corner. Matt Green, Catholic University professor, what does this mean?
These are the conversations that have to happen for Johnson to get
He
the votes
needs these 2 votes to win, doesn't he?
Right. Assuming he can't get Massey, he needs those 2.
He's not going to get Massey. I think we can probably call that
It
off the
seems
table.
extremely unlikely. Yes.
There he goes with Keith Self and Ralph Norman, the 3 of them, right? There they go. Okay. That's Ralph Norman in the lead, who was not expected to not vote for Mike Johnson. And Keith Self was kind of a bit of a surprise too, wasn't he? He wasn't on our list of to watches.
They're leaving the floor
with the speaker, right?
Yep.
There they go. All right. And again, to remind viewers, the gavel has not come down on the first vote. So it is still open. These 2 could change their mind, and he needs both of their votes. The vote count is currently 216 for Mike Johnson, 215 for Hakeem Jeffries, 3 for others. Tom Massey, Ralph Norman, Keith Self, all voted for another individual. And Mike Johnson needs 2 of 3 of those to be elected speaker on the first vote. Am I correct in
I
my
believe
math?
that's correct. He needs 218.
And he's at 216.
Right. If those 3 who voted for someone else will vote for a named candidate in the next round, then it's still 218. So he'll need 2 of those 3.
And we just saw the 3 gentlemen, Ralph Norman, Keith Self, and Mike Johnson, walk off the floor.
So those conversations are happening. There's negotiations going on. Would love to be in that room.
Well, I'll tell you, the reason we have are able to get some of these shots that we're getting is because C-SPAN cameras are on the floor. The speaker is allowed C-SPAN cameras to be at the opening of the Congress. Usually we do not control the cameras. They're controlled by the House of Representatives. But today we have that option. There's Tom Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene chatting on the floor as well. Tom Massey, is there any chance that he would change his vote? I see he is not part of the group of 3 that went off the floor.
Well, I suppose that's pretty telling. He's not in the conversation. So it doesn't bode well for him changing his vote. Again, anything is possible, but it seems, again, based on what he's said publicly for quite some time, he is a hard no on Speaker Johnson.
Thanks for sticking with us. We're going to be here and throughout this vote and potentially into the next one. And at the end of all this, we hope to hear from you and get your views on the opening day of the 119th Congress. Live coverage on C-SPAN.
Folks, so let's talk about what it is that we are waiting for. We're waiting for the official count to take place. We're waiting on the clerk to bang the gavel, making it official. That should have happened about 10 minutes ago or 15 minutes ago, MAGA Mike Johnson first went back into the speaker's office where he appeared to be crying. As I suspected, probably had to call Mama Trump and Daddy Elon. Then he came back and they're like, go back out there, MAGA Mike, and you gotta fight, MAGA Mike. Get back out there. Go speak to them. So then we saw MAGA Mike Johnson meeting with the MAGA Republicans who voted for other people. MAGA Republican Congress members Norman and Self. And so they were then seen walking with MAGA Mike Johnson into the back room to do a backroom deal. So that is what we're waiting on. Will they do a backroom deal? Like, can we just reflect on that for a moment, that's what we're waiting on, whether or not a backroom deal will allow MAGA Mike Johnson to stay as Speaker of the House? And will those two other votes change from others to voting for MAGA Mike Johnson? Right there, who you see on the screen, not on the left in the C-SPAN offices, but on the right on the House floor for a second, was Massey, MAGA Republican Thomas Massey, who is not changing his mind. He is voting against MAGA Mike Johnson. So we knew that. But that's what's taking place right now. MAGA Mike Johnson is in the back room trying to cut a backroom deal with Norman and Self. So that's pretty much where we are. Now, extrapolate this to legislation. Do you think that this House will be able to achieve any piece of legislation if this is what they're doing when it comes to picking the Speaker? And you know, and the thing is too, MAGA Mike Johnson is, in my view, showing the ultimate weakness here by doing a backroom deal or whatever's going on right now, right? I mean, look, if you're MAGA Mike Johnson and you want to project strength and have real power, don't you just go, okay, vote me out. We'll see how that goes. By the way, that's what you're seeing right there. You're seeing MAGA Mike Johnson going in the back room with Congress members Norman and Self. That's when that was taking place, to try to cut a backroom deal to get them to change their votes from other to Johnson. And he needs 2 of the 3 to go from others to Johnson. And we know that Thomas Massey is an absolute no. That was when MAGA Mike Johnson realized that it was not going to be an easy first round. And look, if you want to exercise real strength, don't you just like stand up and go, you know what? That's fine. Throw this whole thing into chaos. I will step down as Speaker because I only want to be Speaker to exercise power. And good luck. And good luck. So we're looking at MAGA Mike Johnson right now. We're seeing on his face if he thinks that he's got them to switch their votes. He currently does not have the votes. There he is talking to Hakeem Jeffries right now. Interesting photo right there of MAGA Mike speaking with Hakeem. I think MAGA Mike is asking Hakeem for potentially more time right now. This is an interesting moment, and if there's any lip readers out there, they're clearly talking right now about what to do with timing right now, how this is going to be handled. You see that gesture right there by MAGA Mike saying thank you to Hakeem Jeffries right there. He had to ask Hakeem Jeffries for something. MAGA Mike, based on at least the smile on his face, looks to be laughing and happy as he's talking to Hakeem Jeffries. I'm going to try to get some scoops about what we know about what went down in that backroom deal. We'll keep you posted as we learn more about that backroom deal. But they were clearly, okay, so it does appear that Norman and Self will be now changing their votes. So it does seem that after the backroom deal took place, it does seem that we'll wait for final confirmation, but that they are going to change their votes from others to MAGA Mike Johnson, and likely the conversation that you saw between Hakeem Jeffries and MAGA Mike Johnson was about scheduling their speeches as both speaker and as minority leader, because those speeches then follow. So we will kind of keep you posted here, but I think we will see them changing their votes shortly, so it doesn't go into a second round. And, you know, whatever deal that MAGA Mike Johnson had to cut with them it's an interesting way to start off the 119th Congress, to say the least right now. We will keep you updated every step of the way here, but that seems to be the latest data, that you're going to have Norman and Self switch. So I think what you'll see shortly is from others, you'll see those three, or you'll see two of those three go to Johnson, 218, 215, with one voting other. That should be where we're at. We'll take you to the House floor.
Reported as Jordan.
House will be in order.
Mr. Norman Johnson. Mr. Self is recorded as Donalds. Mr. Self Johnson.
So there's the moment, folks, right there. MAGA Mike Johnson had to cut some backroom deal, which will make MAGA Mike Johnson the Speaker of the House after the backroom deal that we don't know what was promised to Norman and Self, but we know something was promised for them to change their vote. So there you have MAGA Mike Johnson, a man who does not look to be a paragon of strength or anything. He looks like someone who is easily controlled. Let's just say that. That is not the person you want flying your airplane. That is not the person that you want performing a surgery on you, okay? That is not the person you want in a courtroom by your side right there. That is not a person with a steady hand that you want anywhere near you in a position of power or responsibility. But that is who's the Speaker of the House. That's the individual leading the MAGA Republicans.
Well, it looks like Mike Johnson has the
And
vote.
so there you have it, folks. I mean, obviously, relief coming over MAGA Mike Johnson. What an embarrassing day all around right there. The 218 is enough for MAGA Mike to win, whatever, based on that backroom deal that was cut. And soon we'll have the official gavel confirming that MAGA Mike Johnson will be the Speaker of the House. And just by whatever that backroom deal was after MAGA Mike almost cried. Well, there you have. I'm not going to cover here MAGA Mike Johnson's speech. We'll do a hot take on that. We'll do a hot take on Hakeem Jeffries' speech, not a hot take on MAGA Mike Johnson's speech. But do me a favor, everybody, subscribe to our YouTube channel, please. I want to try to get that to 3.5 million subscribers. Have you all been to MeidasPlus.com, which is curated by our editor-in-chief, Ron Filipkowski. It's the new #1 place to get your MeidasTouch news, MeidasPlus.com. Subscribe to the newsletter. Filipkowski gives great daily updates. MeidasPlus.com. Check it out. A lot of the articles there are free as well. Don't worry, we're not going to play MAGA Mike Johnson's voice here. All right, everybody, that's kind of the end of our coverage. I mean, if you want to see him gavel and MAGA Mike Johnson be picked as Speaker of the House, that's what's about to happen next. I'm going to work on a hot take going through everything that just went down. We'll keep you posted each step of the way. Meidas Mighty, we love you. We're grateful for you. Thank you for tuning in. That is not the face of strength right there. Buckle up, folks. The 119th Congress is going to be full of chaos, full of disarray, full of MAGA implosions. We'll be covering it every step of the way. I'm Ben Meiselas. You've been watching our continuing coverage of the MeidasTouch Network. Check out MeidasPlus.com, Patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscribe to the MeidasTouch podcast. Watch our videos every day. We have them all throughout the day covering the biggest, most important topics in our nation and the world. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We love you. We're grateful for you. We'll see you next time on the MeidasTouch Network.